who gave me the advice to say, girl, follow your true north.
What is true north?
You know, when you're a child, right? And there's always that inner dream. It might not be specific, but there are things that you love to do. Okay. And usually God will align what you love to do with what you are called to do. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean you won't be scared or you won't fail along the way.
My name is Sibahle Magadla and welcome to Be Connects, a conversation series designed to come alongside you and I as we build a life restored in identity, refreshed in soul, and awakened to purpose. Today, I always start with today, but I've got a lady that I love so dearly. She is actually one of the ladies who were in my community when I was in UCT, right? She was once upon a time a Connect group leader of mine. That's where I grew with the Lord. And that's why it's so important. I stress it all the time. Community is so important. Not only do you grow in the Lord, but I looked to her and I saw her drive and how hard she worked and how ambitious she was. She had dreams and she went for her dreams. And I really took that on a lot, right? And so we have Sibahle Magadla. To me, she's a sister. She is a mentor, virtual, because nowadays she's all over the world. Like, you can't get a hold of Usiba. But we'll talk about that. She is a development economist addressing a lot of social ills like inequality, unemployment, and poverty. Yeah. Correct? I mentioned she is a virtual mentor of mine. I've learned a lot from Usiba, and that's why I wanted to have her here. I think she represents a woman who is not only strong in her faith, but truly is striving in her respective field of influence. She's doing a lot. She's also now venturing into career coaching. 100%. And we're going to talk a lot about that because I think I need your expertise. I need a lot, and I think a lot of us need that. So welcome, Sibahle.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited to have you today.
Likewise.
I think we have a lot of history.
We do, years upon years.
We have a lot of history. Usiba knew my room in red.
I did.
She used to call me and she didn't want me to mention the CC. Like, she would put emphasis on CC. Her and Utulani were sisters to me. I think they saw me when I was like down and out, when I experienced a lot of like attack, when I was growing in my faith, when I kept asking, I'm not sure if Magadla is the one. Is he my husband? Remember those talks?
I remember. Is he my husband? Season.
That season, right? So she was there, and man, I've just watched Usiba grow and go for the things that she wants to go for. I mean, sour.
You, girl.
Right?
Girl.
And I was a finalist. I should have just, but I got sick on the day and I couldn't continue. I remember
I remember that.
Yeah, but anyway, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I just also want to say congratulations for this platform. It's also a pleasure just watching you go from glory to glory, my sis. So let's keep going.
Yeah. We have no other choice.
We don't.
Did you see this when I was growing in the faith? With God, did you see something like this happen?
To be honest, I did, but at the same time, I sensed a lot of self-doubt and holding back. Yeah. So one of my prayers for you, especially after Connect Group, when we'd have cell, I'd literally pray that may you see the light you carry and also the beauty that you have. That's a vessel to reach more people, right? Because God uses our attractiveness, even the way we look, right? For his purposes. And seeing you now, beautiful one, doing it, it just makes me so happy. I'm delighted.
I feel like I'm going to cry on this. I don't want my makeup. I feel like, and you know why? I think it's because, like I said, we have history. So when I hear your words, they're not just they're not just words from someone I met like a year ago, 2 years ago,
100%.
but because there's history. I'm talking to someone who knew me when I was very fresh in the Lord, who helped nurture and cultivate what God had placed in me. When you speak those words, they actually pull on the strings of my heart.
Wow, that makes me so happy.
They do. You and Fulani, you have your own place in my heart. It was you, Fulani, and Sihle.
Yes, the trio.
Right?
Yeah.
You guys have this special place in my heart because you honestly represented to me what community is and should be. You guys would pray for me.
Yeah.
You were within arm's reach. I could just on the phone, Siba, I'm not okay. I knew that I had sisters who would pray for me continuously and encourage me, and we would laugh together. And I'd like to believe that to some extent I was also there for you when you went through a lot as well, because it wasn't an easy journey.
Yeah, sisterhood really has gotten me through so many seasons of life. So absolutely, you played a role in my journey. Yeah,
so I'm not gonna cry. I'll try. I'll just swallow my saliva and make sure that, you know, when you try and stop yourself from crying, you just swallow a lot.
You're like,
you just swallow a lot. So I'm gonna ask a few fire questions.
Awesome.
It won't be too many.
Okay.
I want to know what your morning routine looks like. I mean, you travel a lot.
I do.
Right? And I'm sure each time you're in a different place, it probably looks different. I'm not sure if it's the same routine or if you manage to keep it the same.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to know what your morning routine looks like.
Yeah, I mean, when I am in Johannesburg, South Africa, not traveling for work, usually when I wake up in the morning, I actually get up and go to gym. You know, I work out at Knockout Days, so Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturday mornings is that. I'd come back, have my quiet time, shower, and then drive to work. I am an entrepreneur, meaning that I consult for different organizations, but I have a designated workspace at the WeWork. There's a place called the WeWork co-working space in Sandton. So that's where I'd go. I'd have my morning coffee there. Say hi.
And they do have a nice barista.
It's very nice, and it's a great culture. You say hi to the fellow entrepreneurs, people in the building, and you start the day. But I think for me, what a morning routine is my time to kind of remind myself that I am alive. So for me, even the practice of going to gym is a reminder that, like, I have a fully functioning body that I can use. When I come back, even in the drive back from gym to my house, I'm listening to worship music. I get to my place, I have my quiet time, just centering myself, and then the day begins.
Okay. And Siba, how have you managed to nurture your relationships? Traveling so much. I mean, you have a lot of friends, or I'm assuming, this side in South Africa, right?
Yes.
How have you managed to continue cultivating those relationships? And I'm sure your family as well, your siblings, etc. How do you cultivate that, knowing that you travel so much?
That's such a good question. I think the main thing I can say is that, fortunately, I managed to establish the foundations of a lot of my relationships when I was more stable, i.e., not traveling as much. So I had that pleasure of being able to be rooted, grounded, having my prayer friends, my running friends, my social friends, my academic friends. So that kind of then created the foundation. So now that I travel so much, we literally we put things in the calendar. If I want to catch up with someone over coffee, I literally have to diarize it as if it's one of my work meetings. In terms of family, I am from the Eastern Cape, so I travel whenever I have the time. I go home to see mom, to be rooted again, to be reminded who I am, right? Yes. So I literally just block off time to nurture those relationships when I'm around.
Talking about family, tell us a bit about your childhood. How was Sibahle? I think when I think of you as a child, I see this bubbly child, and I could be incorrect, you know, you could be this quiet lady, but I see you as this bubbly child. Like you just mentioned, you gave it away that I'm incorrect. So tell us a bit more. Tell us a bit more about your childhood.
Sure.
What was that like for you? Family dynamics.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I am the last born of 5 girls. So I kind of grew up being they call it the family jewel, the one who's nurtured, protected. You know what I mean? So I actually grew up feeling like I had to be the good girl to maintain this thing that people, the way they treat me, the family egg, you know what I mean? So growing up, mom and dad were both in the picture, but when I was 10, mom moved away for work to lecture, to be a lecturer. So I grew up mostly with my dad. Like, that's who I spent most of my time with. He was my best friend. I'm not going to lie. So in terms of like, I was actually more on the introverted side. I was really like afraid of people, like afraid of what people would think. And I think it comes from the people pleasing. So not to ruffle feathers, I just not say much.
Okay.
So if it was a birthday party, I just keep silent, listen to people, be sweet, do what I thought was required or expected of me. I think the bubbly side only came out when I, went to university, started to kind of discover my true self outside of the ambit of, the family setting. And I guess from there, I've tried to maintain that.
Yeah. I mean, I speak from getting to have that glimpse of you growing in the Lord, and I see how important your faith is.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
How have you built your relationship with God, and why is your faith so important to you?
Absolutely. So I grew up in a Christian home, so we went to church every Sunday. I mean, I have memories of dad telling us that if you are not in my car by this time, I will leave you.
My dad says, get out of my house.
So wild. It's so hectic. So anyway, so you know how it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, also seeing both my parents being involved in church. Mama, we choir. Dad was that. Dad, those fathers who close the church doors when we were playing.
He was that man.
No, my dad, he was that guy. So I kind of grew up in that. So I even went to a Christian school. So my parents decided that, it's best that I go. So I was nurtured to both fear God and also love God, right?
Okay.
So then going into university, having that foundation already, joining church and so on, and being part of like campus ministry and all those things, kind of strengthened that faith, right? But obviously there were things that happened in my life, disappointments, dealing with loss, death, that will kind of shake your faith, so that even with the intimacy, you just feel like God has failed you, God has disappointed you. What's the point of the salvation thing if you're just like suffering throughout? But like we said, starting the session, community got me through. Sometimes seeing your friends pray and intercede on your behalf when you don't have the words, or you don't even want to do it anymore, because you're just like, this God that lets me suffer and be embarrassed like this, what's the point? So what has really maintained that fellowship and intimacy in my relationship with Christ is, yes, the foundations, but also having community to carry me when I don't have the capacity to do it on my own. Yeah.
Talking about challenging moments, it's a question that I ask very often on the podcast is, sometimes we go through what I call the valley of the shadow of death. Those are like very tough, hard seasons. And in those seasons, I've discovered that we actually discover parts of God that we would have never really discovered if we did not go through the valley of the shadow of death. And I want to know, what has been your valley of the shadow of death moment? And what part of God have you discovered?
So, I mean, I've had because it comes in waves. At this stage of your life, that's the valley. At this stage of life, that's the valley. But obviously, I'll speak to the more recent one.
Okay.
Which is, like I said, my dad was my best friend. Like, he was my cheerleader. Even the fact that I was so ambitious is because he was the one saying, Siba, push. You're capable. You can do this, right? Unfortunately, he passed away unexpectedly, October 2019. And I was at such a vulnerable time at that point, because I had just come back from the UK, was trying to find employment, find my feet, you understand? And I felt extremely insecure during that time. And he unexpectedly passed away. And I remember feeling so abandoned. Because it was just like in the moment where I needed this person the most, he left. And I mean, other things happened after that. We found out that mom is not well. There were just a lot of things that were going on. And I was still unemployed, right? And I remember just going through this phase of just feeling so, because loss and grief is a very deep and dark place, right? And unless you've been, like, people haven't been, you won't get it until you actually go through it. So
100%,
I think for me, in that period, being in the valley, how I experienced God was so different. I'd always known God as a friend, right? As my Lord and Savior. But during that period, God said, I want to be a father to you. And it's so weird that I started to Twitter in my 20s because I never needed to experience God in that way because my dad was so present. He was there, my physical father.
Yeah.
So actually saying, God, I need you to father me to be my dad. Like if I'm feeling sad, if I don't know where I'm going to get money, if I'm really nervous about this meeting, would you father me? Would you actually fill that gap where I'm feeling so like abandoned, alone? You understand?
Yeah.
So I think now I can safely say I know what it means to be fathered by my Heavenly Father.
Sure.
Yeah.
She knows what it means to be fathered. I think we don't talk a lot about the fatherhood of God and how He can actually father us. And it's because we see Him as this distant God.
100%.
I need to do A, B, and C. Obedience is important. Yes, we know it. Faithfulness is important. But do we know what it means to just be fathered by God?
Yeah.
Where we know I'm not going to get it all right, but I'm still fathered by God.
Exactly.
He's holding my hand and He's walking me through. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think it's such an important discovery
it is
that everyone needs to really be fathered by God.
And I mean, I really want to be very frank and say that for a lot of women, particularly in South Africa, who don't know what it feels like to have a father or be fathered, you almost live with this level of like feeling unsafe and anxious in the world. You're almost in survival mode because it feels like there's a covering that's missing, right? But I really want to encourage whoever's watching this that like that feeling, God can minister there.
Come on.
God can actually remove the spirit of fear and anxiety and cover you so you actually feel whole. And I feel like once I really embraced that, my confidence came back. My self-assurance, because there was a point where I kind of cowered, right? Because I just felt like, what the heck is happening? And I just started to like find my way back to my true self again. And I just want to encourage anyone watching that God can father you. Let Him in.
Sure. Ooh. As one who studied social development, and I mean, you should know your work requires you to address a lot of social ills.
Yes.
I think we have discovered, or rather statistics show that a lot of fatherless homes, the children, man, their upbringing or the way they show up in life is very different.
100%.
Right? So fatherless homes or fatherlessness can affect confidence in a child.
Absolutely.
Can affect even their belief systems.
Absolutely.
How they show up in the workspace, if they take risks or not, you know. And so when you say you allowed yourself to be fathered by God, in fact, when you speak to the community and you speak about how the reality of the state that we're in South Africa, and women growing up without fathers, you know, and the repercussions of that. Painful. I love that you speak about that. You're making it so practical for many of us here to really understand the importance of being fathered by God.
It's everything.
I've listened to a few of your interviews. I did my research.
Girl.
and you talk a lot about inner work and finding your true north, you know. For someone who might not understand what true north is all about and what finding your true north is, can you talk about the importance, of doing the inner work? Because I know it's very much tied to you being a career coach.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, and we're going to talk about that. So the importance of doing the inner work and just, you know, finding your true north.
Absolutely. And thank you for asking this question. So by nature, right, or the way God has set us up is that like every human being, right, exists to contribute value to the world, right? So as an individual, there are specific talents and things that just come easily for you, right? And there's a purpose behind that. God wants to use those things, you know, for you to actually like bring value, joy, beauty, bring solutions here to the world's problems, right? So part of the thinking about your career and the work that you do in the world is the fact that it's so important to actually think like, given the talents and what God, you know, has put in my hands, how can I add value to people? So the inner work is actually that the enemy will then bring in things such as maybe social barriers or even fear, doubt, imposter syndrome, or maybe use the traumas that you experience to create lies or false narratives about who you are, right? And your identity. So that kind of blocks you then from actually using everything you've been given to kind of be the light that you're called to be based on your identity and your calling, right? So part of the inner work is then reflecting and thinking like, given who I am and deep down the thing that I do want to do, what are the things I need to overcome to actually feel like I can do that?
Sure.
And with the coaching work that I do, a lot of my clients, to be honest, are like based in the Eastern Cape, then rural areas. Like some people are in like situations where it's even hard structurally to do the work. Like how do I even get transport to get to this place? I don't even have data, have airtime. So part of the coaching is to deal with the inner work and say, okay, let's think about solutions around this. And then B, we talk about the more practical things about, you know, structurally, what can we do to overcome? But I think inner work, overcoming your fear, your doubts is so important because chances are it's that thing you fear, that project you're scared to do, that piece of content you're afraid to make, that call you're scared to make is exactly what you should be pursuing. So the value of inner work is to have the confidence, the boldness, and the belief that what God says you should be doing, you are worthy of doing it and are capable.
I'm seeing how, I am seeing how important healing is then. We think healing is just, we're dealing with the inner work. Okay, I'm healing my heart, I'm healing my mind. But actually not investing in healing affects you even going for that promotion at work.
Absolutely.
You get what I mean? Like, or going for your dreams. Because as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to take risks and you're faced a lot. You're actually faced with yourself quite a lot.
All the time.
Right? Okay, Kabelo, why are you afraid of going for that dream? Why don't you want to start that project? Why are you afraid of, applying for funding? And then when you go back, you see that the root is, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think, do you get what I mean? It always traces back to you and you not believing what you can offer, the value you carry. It's also tied to worth and not feeling worthy, right? And so not healing actually affects every area of our lives. And I said it before, how healing is so parallel to growth. If you don't allow yourself to heal, you're not going to grow as you should.
You're not. Right? You're really not.
Sure. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, you're a development economist.
Yes.
I want to know what that is, or what it looks like day to day for someone who might not know. I say because I'm quite interested. I am a social development graduate, right? And some of my majors were like gender studies and industrial sociology. So it is very much something I'm passionate about. In fact, I believe that Beloved is soon going to grow into a social impact business. As it should, right? Yes, obviously, faith is our foundation, but I really want to start addressing a lot of the social ills, right? That we see in society. And I think we're doing a disservice even to God when we don't go out into the world and address a lot of these social 100%. Ills. Poverty, that's on God's heart.
It really is.
Gender inequality, that's on God's heart.
It really,
you know what I mean? Unemployment, that's on God's heart. I'm actually reminded of one of our base scriptures for our upcoming event on the 1st of June. And these are the conversations that I can't wait to have. Because I don't think a lot of people know how to merge faith and the workspace. Faith and purpose. Faith and being an entrepreneur. And that's why the base scripture, when the Lord took me to the scripture, I was like, blows my mind. It's in Proverbs 24 and verse 3 and 4. It actually says, wise people are builders. They build their families, they build businesses, and they build their communities. It then says through revelation, knowledge, and insights, their enterprises will be established.
Come on.
So for me, it's like, God, you care about these things. You care about the family. You care about our society and some of the social ills that we're facing. You care about our businesses. And so that's why we're having this, because then we have people who can be regarded as experts in their field or who have gone ahead of us, who can share that knowledge, who can share that insight on how to build.
Come on.
How to position yourself in the
on.
workplace,
Yeah.
right? How to get strategy to build your business, but also not neglecting the family.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I'm sad that you won't be there.
I'm gutted as well, I'm not gonna lie.
She's
I would have
traveling,
loved,
so we're not gonna have her there.
I'll be in the UK.
Yeah,
at that
but there's
time,
many other
though.
opportunities.
Yeah,
Be Connect will still be there next year even. But yeah, I want you to maybe tell us what your day-to-day looks like. You know, what is a development economist? Like, what do you do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to explain it in as simple terms as possible, right?
Okay.
So if you look at, say, the space such as, Johannesburg, right? And we'll talk about the issues that like transport is an issue. So for people who stay in like outside of Sandton, right?
Yeah.
Just structurally getting here either via taxi or bus, whatever, is a harder conversation, right?
Okay.
It's like, how do we actually make systems much easier for them, right?
Okay.
So then I would, as a development economist, provide policy advice, policy support to say, how do we make transport more efficient? The more topical issue now is that there are no jobs, right?
Yes.
People don't know where the jobs are. And there's also this mismatch because the jobs that are available, people don't have the right skills for them. As development economists, we try to think about what are the ways we bridge that gap. How do we create more information for job seekers to know where the jobs are? But on the other hand, how do we empower job seekers to know how to be proactive and entrepreneurial in how they look or locate those jobs? Do you understand? So development is trying to, what are the issues that currently exist, right? And what are the solutions, right? We need to address them. Then I am the one who then, based on data, evidence, doing research, sometimes I'll like speak to the man on the street and say, so how did you get to Jan Smart's today from where you stay? How much did it cost you? How much did you make today selling the things that you made? It's trying to understand what are the daily struggles of like the ordinary citizen who doesn't have a car, who doesn't have maybe the same education, less status or level, that who doesn't have the access to networks that I have, and how can we then start to build and find, kind of bridge gaps in those areas to make sure that like that kind of person can participate in the mainstream economy. So day to day I'm doing research. Day to day I'm busy talking to colleagues, government colleagues, saying, colleagues, this is where you should allocate the money for things to happen. I also engage with private sector because I'm private sector, the CSI, and they're trying to kind of allocate funds to support, or they even want advice about, we have this graduate program or internship program. How do we actually create a system where we can actually feed in, young people from the places where it's really like they're really marginalized. They're not in like the mainstream areas. So I provide policy support, advocacy support, but not only in South Africa, on the continental level. Most of the work I've done in Ethiopia, in other parts of Kenya, is to actually then also provide this advice on a more continental level, but prioritizing women. So a lot of the research that I do is like, given the fact that women are more likely to have children, so they have to take breaks from work to actually like be caretakers. How do you create like systems where they can still go on maternity leave, come back and continue? Or how do we mobilize a care economy where even if a woman is, say, going to work, there's at least a nursery like at the bottom level of the company or the building, or just structurally with the cities, it's easier. It's easier for a mother who cares for her children to still be a mom, do school run, go to work, get lunch break, go check in on the kids if she wants to, and continue doing the work that she's passionate about, doing the research, then advocating for things to change based on evidence. So not just saying, I have to say, these are the results, these are the numbers, these are the samples that I took, this is who I interviewed. Do you understand? Data, evidence, based solutions.
And I'm assuming you sit a lot with these women, because you're saying you have to have evidence.
Absolutely.
You have to have surveys, perhaps.
Survey work is my life. And I think the beauty then also of career coaching is that I've also gained more insights, because now I get to connect to most of my clients, and 5% of my clients thus far have been women. So I also get to understand even like the day-to-day, like struggle. I mean, most of my clients mentally depressed because unemployment can do that to you. It really can make you feel so worthless. So also they think about the fact that like the barriers or the handicap is even now mental, because someone is looking for work for 2 years, 5 years, even 9 years. So part of the work that I do to then address unemployment is to then cater and coach, you know, my clients to still realize that in spite of their job search situation, they still have value that they bring to society.
And I'm sure it looks very different with regards, I mean, you travel all across Africa, and there's a lot of cultural narratives that are out there, or cultural influences that are at play, especially with women. Some women maybe can't work because culture and traditions don't allow them to work.
Oh, absolutely.
How have you dealt with that? I mean, I can imagine how so many other women are not just marginalized because of unemployment, but there's also things like abuse. Do you deal with that on a day-to-day as well?
I mean, I don't want to mention countries, but there are countries where in terms of like the gender and social norms, it's still like, you know, man works, woman stays at home, and like we just keep, it doesn't say much, we just keep it moving, you know, in that sense. And I really want to highlight that when we talk about women's work, I think a lot of people then feel like, oh, we are pushing this agenda that like, oh, women must be like men, The whole point of the work that I do is that like, whether a man or woman, right? You can do the work that you believe you're called to do without structural barriers stopping you from doing that work. So it's not this conversation about men versus women. It's like, if you are a woman and you're actually passionate about entrepreneurship, you're good at this business thing, selling your textile products and your goods, how do we then encourage that? How would you create an ecosystem, but also social norms like rallying support from partners, husbands, and even fathers to say, no, my daughter, you've got this. No, my wife, you've got this. So yes, I deal with a lot of those very sensitive situations, but I think what has really helped me is that like, and I think with the work that I do, more than my expertise speaking for me, it's been character. So the humility, how you walk into a room, even how you advise, how you speak to your honorable governors, you know, ministers and stuff, like also approaching that with humility and honoring the office that they have been given as these entities, right? To be the ones who make the final decision. I'm just there to advise, give my opinion based on data and evidence. But I find that when I come with, you know, a humble spirit and they can see that I actually care about the work, it's not just, oh, this is just another project that will pay me. I actually care about the final
and
outcomes.
We see
it. Then the communication is received better. So I think I've learned that with every country, in every environment, I kind of like then learn what are the norms, even like, you know, when you say something about all protocol observed, like just even knowing how to greet, you know, how like in Nigeria, you need to literally like bend and just show your respect. I do that, like, because the context requires that.
And you care.
I care. I really, really care.
Do you think, I mean, just seeing your passion and how you talk about it, when we started talking about work, Sibahle was like, you know, I can see the passion.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. It's so refreshing. Do you think that you found your life's purpose?
100%.
I think so too.
But it didn't come
evolving.
Easily. Yeah, it's evolving.
Absolutely.
And it didn't come easily either. I've dealt with a lot of failure along the way. I made mistakes. I started out going for jobs and opportunities that I thought were the right thing to do because they seem more popular. Other economists are taking these roles, you know. I started there and I suffered the consequences because I was unhappy, right? Not doing as well because it didn't make my heart come alive. But now that I've actually followed my true north, and I mean, it's come with its own like sacrifices. And like you said, I have to face myself every day because I have to do things scared.
I talk about doing things scared. You literally have to do them scared.
But I'm definitely aligned with my purpose, and I'm so grateful.
And what role has faith played in you being so ignited in your life's work or in your life's purpose? How do you think your faith has played a role in you showing up the way you do? Because you do show up.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate your words. It's always nice to know that someone, from the outside looking, watching, can actually see that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, by definition, right, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen, right? So with the nature of my work, I'm really working on uncharted territory. So like a lot of the work that I do, and even in the way that I approach it, it hasn't been done before.
Okay.
But it's been God saying, okay, take this path, make this decision, try, do this.
Yeah.
And it's scary because you're just like, but God, I don't have an example. There's no template for
Trust me, I get you.
Yeah.
There's no reference.
There's no reference. I can't call and say, oh, you did this one last day.
I get you. I get this. I feel the same thing when it comes to Beloved. I feel the same thing.
It's so hard. And then also you make mistakes along the way and then you try. Oh, it fails. Oh, you know what I mean? It budget. And part of like the budget. There's all these things where you're just like, God, like, should I be doing this?
Exactly.
But there's that inner thing. Holy Spirit keeps ministering to me. He said, one step at a time.
Yeah.
One day at a time. You know what I mean?
That,
And I've just found that, like, as I walk in faith, things happen. They unfold. Yeah.
Sure. I want to ask you a question, right? You mentioned that you believe that you have found maybe your life's purpose.
Yeah.
In your journey as Sibahle, can you maybe point out 3 experiences that played out as God's whispers in showing you the purpose that He's called you to? So maybe let me give you an example. I know one of my gifts is really, and I did not see it until a friend actually said, that is actually a gift. She says, I can never come around you and not want to excel in what I do or not want to work on what God has placed in me. And so I always refer to myself as like a midwife.
You are.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. And I never knew that it was a gift. I always just said, I want to be a midwife. I want to help people.
Yes, you used to say that in Connect, Black and Tug World.
I didn't
You
know
used
that.
to say that. You used to talk about being a midwife.
Wow.
You used to use that term a lot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sure. So I that's what I see. And I just love it. It fulfills me when I get to be around someone and I feel like even just being around them on my words, I'm always talking about what has God placed on the inside of you. See, when it comes to identity and purpose, I am so passionate about that because I strongly believe restored identity awakens purpose, right? And so I love bringing out what I feel God has placed in people. I love quickening what I feel like God has placed in people. And so I've seen it just in my relationships. People will say the same thing. Like, you always just inspire me to want to rise up and to do what God has placed in me. Or you always inspire me to seek to walk with God more intimately. So those for me have been God's whispers in showing me, okay, this is what I've called you to. But I can't put it together and say this is who I am, this is what God. But I'm seeing God's, just the hints, His whispers and saying, this is what I've called you to. What do you think it has, what has it been or how has it looked for you? Yeah. Maybe 3 experiences.
Absolutely. So 3 experiences. So one of them was actually so interesting. I remember I was at UCT, University of Cape Town, and for my first year and second year in terms of my like performance, guys, was so bad. That was a very difficult time. But I remember being in a taxi going to Claremont from Rondebosch, and there was this random lady, Christian woman, who gave me a prophetic word to say, "Don't worry about your academics. God is going to use you to provide ideas, advice, solutions in spaces that you can't even imagine now. Keep going." That was the first one. Because at that point I was like, what's happening? People would be like, how's school going? I'd be like, yo, guys, I don't know. But that prophetic word sticks to me even today.
Sure.
The second one, interestingly, was like my time leading Connect Group and facilitating Home Sal, the prayers, just like how God would use me to speak over people, pray over people. And I think that's when I discovered my leadership potential, that like I'm the kind of leader who wants to empower and nurture and propel other people forward to keep doing what they're doing. So that was another indicator. And I think the third one, and it's the power of sisterhood. You know, when you have like friends or Sihle, like you said, who remind you who you are. And they always used to say, Siba, just doing the normal corporate thing is not for you. When you are someone who will have a portfolio career, you will advise here, you'll provide technical support here, you will coach here, pursue that.
Yeah.
So it was a prophetic word. It was serving, right, under campus ministry, under the church.
Yeah.
And then it was a sisterhood of like-minded young women who know you well, who gave me the advice to say, girl, follow your true north.
Yeah. What is true north?
Yeah, so true north basically is, when you're a child, right? And there's always that inner dream. It might not be specific, but there are things that you love to do. Okay. And usually God will align what you love to do with what you are called to do. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean you won't be scared or you won't fail along the way. Yeah. But there's almost like those low-hanging fruits you have as a person. Okay. And they are the signal in terms of the kind of path you need to take. Okay. And sometimes God will even use your traumas or past things that have been difficult to refine your true north. So you'll find women who've gone through really hard things, maybe been abused. They start ministries for women. Those are almost like those leading paths to your true north. So I always say to people, yes, look at your strengths, look at the things that make your heart come alive, look at the reflections and the lessons you've learned and the healing journey. And see what you can bring forth from there. That is the true north. And I think for me, God used my academics, kind of growing up in Tata, seeing the poverty and inequality in my face, to then shape the true north of promoting development.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap it up.
Let's.
But I believe in what you do. That's why I say I need to come. I need to come there. I love that it's not just career coaching as in this is what you should do, show up, be a boss babe, etc. But we get to
we go there.
You know what I mean? There. And so I want people to come to you. People who feel like I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
I want to excel. I want to tap into this purpose thing. I just don't know where to start. Right? Where can people find you? How can people find you?
Guys, it's easy. You can reach me on Instagram. My handle now is Mindset Coach Siba. Mindset Coach Siba, because the battle isn't here. Reach me on Instagram and let's talk.
Guys, the ladies that I'm so blessed to have in my life, and now we are blessed to have amongst us. Thank you so much.
It's only a pleasure.
Thank you so much for taking the time to even come here today and for waiting for me.
Of course, worth the wait,
I really appreciate it. I believe it's just onwards and upwards for you. I honestly think you're just scratching the surface.
Amen.
I really think you're just scratching the surface. There's so much more. How could there not be so much more with what you carry, right? So thank you so much. I know that this conversation was impactful. I mean, it was for me. I can only imagine it being impactful for you, right? I want you to let us know what stood out the most for you in our comments. Let us know if Siba and what she had to say changed your perspective in terms of career coaching, in terms of the work that she does, and did it inspire you or ignite something in you to rise up as well, right? Let us know. Comment, like, subscribe, and join the family, guys. See you on the 1st for those of you who have purchased your tickets. We're going to have more of these conversations and even more. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Thank you.